Hi everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is that you're tuning into this video. I wanted to create I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet, a quick video talking about a few different things. So on Saturday, I posted a video about how we can work with different levels of compassion. If you haven't watched it yet, it's on my Instagram page in the video section. Highly recommend you check that out. But if you did watch that or if you didn't, doesn't matter. But I talked about these various levels of compassion, and the second one was compassion of curiosity. And so I wanted to share, a practice, a modality that I've been working with and that I will be teaching in my next masterclass. Just kind of give you guys a brief introduction to how we can become a little bit more curious with whatever's arising, whether it be, within our own inner space, our own reality, right? Our own experience, or if, we are holding space for someone else, right? We talked about in the levels of compassion about applying compassion to our relationships with others, as well as allowing ourselves to be a lot more compassionate with ourselves, and the different levels, the different layers that we can work with to cultivate, right, this really beautiful compassion for oneself and for each other. And so, compassion of curiosity is really all about inquiry, right? Getting curious about what's going on and wanting to understand what's arising, wanting to understand ourselves, wanting to understand our experiences on a much deeper, more intimate level. And so I have been studying and working with a practice that is called Integrative Somatic Parts Work. And this deals with really recognizing that we all have these different parts, these different aspects of ourselves that we can work with, that we can learn from, that we can really just get curious about and start to cultivate a relationship with, so that we can really understand and know ourselves on a much deeper level. And so, when we just tune into the language that we use, when maybe sharing something that, we're going through with a friend, or, reflecting on an experience that we've had or that we're having, there's this language around, there's a part of me that wants this and a part of me that wants that, or a part of me that feels this way and a part of me that feels that way. And so we can see, right, how these different parts, these different aspects of ourselves are wanting or feeling, thinking different things. And there can be this polarization between these different parts of ourselves, right? There's this and that. And so when we can recognize that, we can kind of see how we are struggling because there's this internal battle, right? This fight within ourselves between these different parts, these different aspects of ourselves. So when we realize that, right, when we can see that and feel that and sense that, then we can start to really work with these parts and get to know them, right? And what we're doing with integrative somatic parts work is just that, right? We're really understanding that the body is a living library, and that we hold so much information, so much knowledge, so much wisdom within the body. And we are not only creating a relationship with the body, we're also creating a relationship with these different parts, these different aspects of ourselves by listening to the body, listening to those parts, and just feeling into what they have to say. And so this whole idea of this internal polarization, right? We can see how these conflicting almost parts of ourselves can feel very overwhelming to our system, right, and to our being, because there's this struggle between, well, what's true? What do I want? Who am I, right? If there's a part of me that wants one thing and a part of me that wants another thing. And so what this system, right, what this modality recognizes is that there are these different aspects, these different parts of ourselves that are subconscious and can come from our programming, right? Things that we have learned throughout our life, especially in our early childhood, programming, conditioning that we have received from society, and that these parts are not necessarily who we are at our core, right? We have the capital S self, the true self, the authentic self, who, I'm really passionate about guiding people back home to that true self, right? Allowing our true nature, our true self to lead, right? And so doing this work helps us identify these different parts and also connecting and understanding the true self, right? So that is the part of us that is guiding us, is leading us, is moving us through our life. And so there's a teacher of mine that actually, she says this quite often, and I really resonate with what she shares, and I want to kind of bring it in and apply it to this, this somatic polarization, right? These the polarization that can be felt between these different parts, right, within our own being. And she says there are true fields and false fields to everything, right? So there's true parts and there's false parts to everything. And that agenda lives in the extremes. And so when we look at, all of our parts, we can see that there's some truth to, whatever this part is experiencing or expressing or communicating to us. But there's also something that's not true, right? And that can be applied to every single part. Then there's this idea that agenda lies within the extremes. So we can look at these parts, right? These polarized parts that are kind of cycling within these extremes, right? There's the this and that. And so we can see how we can get curious about the agenda, right? The agenda that's living within each polarized part. And oftentimes we get to realize that these agendas are actually of a positive intent, that both these parts that seem very conflicting have a very similar agenda or a similar intention. I prefer to use that word because sometimes agenda we can think of as being a negative intention, but really, the agenda is the intention itself. And this is oftentimes we're realizing that they have a really beautiful positive intention, which is really just to keep us safe, to keep us protected. It doesn't always feel like the most loving, positive thing, but at its core, right, there's this intention to keep us safe. And so when we are bringing, right, these polarized parts together, we are creating a relationship with them both separately, and then we're also allowing them to create a relationship with one another. We're allowing them to come back to wholeness, right? It's almost as if they've been split, but then we're bringing them together, and we're realizing that they're really just two opposites, right? Two ends of the same spectrum. And this is how we can really start to allow that true self, our authentic self, that true nature to be revealed and to be expressed, because we're returning to wholeness, right? There's this illusion or this feeling of separation, and we're allowing ourselves to kind of peel back those layers of the veil that are perceiving, this polarization as separation, and we're bringing ourselves back to wholeness. And, essentially that's what healing is all about. And so I want to kind of transition into my masterclass, right? So every month for the past few months, I've been hosting a masterclass, and we've been going into different topics, and they've kind of been building on one another. And when I launch these masterclasses, I'm just being intuitively led, intuitively guided, basically just given instructions as to what's to come next, right? So I haven't pre-planned any of these. I'm just, it's just really flowing through me. And so I just love when it's like, okay, this is the next piece, because I can see how they are building on one another. And last month's masterclass, or actually in January, I didn't get to launch one in February, but it's coming. So within the next week, it'll be here. But the last masterclass we did was inner child healing, and healing the mother and the father wound. We also went into masculine and feminine polarities and energy dynamics, and this parts work. And what I'll be introducing next is how we can heal self-abandonment. And as we continue to move through this journey of healing, and we're becoming a lot more curious, right? That compassion of curiosity is, we're working with it. We're becoming more curious. We're asking questions. We're self-reflecting. We're becoming more and more self-aware. We begin to notice how we have been abandoning ourselves, right? How we're not always honoring our authentic desires, our needs, right? We are perhaps numbing out, or we are dissociating because things are feeling really uncomfortable, really heavy, really chaotic. So we turn to things for comfort outside of ourselves. There's many ways that we can abandon ourselves, and I want to use that language gently, because I do recognize that there's a lot of trauma, and we are really working on healing the nervous system, and a lot of these are trauma responses, right, where we are in order to keep ourselves safe and protected, there's this perception that we are abandoning ourselves. So, we have to kind of tune into, this isn't necessarily intentional, right? There is a good intention behind it to keep us safe and to keep us protected in some ways, but it also creates this fracture almost, right? This feeling of separation, this feeling of abandonment. And so, that can show up as us not fully trusting ourselves, struggling with our self-esteem. We may also feel like we are kind of self-sabotaging ourselves. There's various ways that this can show up for us. It can also show up, this can also stem from a core wound of abandonment that maybe we experienced as children. Maybe we were abandoned by a family member, a parent, a friend, right? Or we felt as though we were abandoned in certain relationship, an intimate relationship, a friendship, whatever that may be, right? And so oftentimes when that's been an experience that we have, it also shows up with our relationship that we have to ourselves, right? This feeling as though we're not fully connected, that we're leaving ourselves, right? We're abandoning these parts of ourselves, these aspects of ourselves. Perhaps we don't have the healthiest boundaries, and so we're allowing things into our space that are harming us, or we are not taking care of ourselves in a way that, you know, we want to, right? There's this resistance or these blockages or this internal conflict, this internal polarization that's keeping us confused, and that's almost keeping us frozen, right? We're not able to take action because we're like, well, what is it? What do I do? What do I want, right? And so that is going to be, you know, the core of what we will be exploring in my next masterclass. I'm thinking that this will be on Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, probably Wednesday, 7 p.m. I always do 7 p.m. Eastern time. Classes are done via Zoom, and they will be recorded. They're always recorded, but I also have been keeping a part of the class. At the end of the class, we stop the recording, and then I open up space for any questions, any kind of like more intimate sharing, anything that you want to share, anything that you, that you just want to express, can be done in that way. And sorry, I'm having some throat stuff here. But anyway, so yeah, and then there's a recording that goes out. If you can't make it live, you'll at least see the majority of the masterclass. But I like to just keep, a portion of the class sacred, really intimate, really closed, so that there can be, just more comfort for anyone that wants to share their experience and receive some guidance, some support through whatever it is that's arising. So that's available to you if you're able to make it live. I think that's all. I also, obviously, if you're wanting to work on this, one-on-one, this is something that can be done in my one-on-one containers. I have single sessions. I also have a couple spaces actually for more long-term inner alchemy mentorship, which we work with this and so much more, so there's that's available for you as well, and those can be booked through my website, or you can just DM me. You can book a free consultation if you are wanting more long-term support. But yeah, that's all for now. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching this video if you made it all the way through. Again, just really looking forward to this next masterclass and going deeper into how we can work with this practice and how we can heal self-abandonment and create and cultivate a much more deeper, intimate relationship with our true and our authentic self. And so I love you all, and I will see you in my next video.